The Acolyte's place in the Star Wars timeline is technically incorrect, but a simple alteration can remedy it. It's safe to say that no Star Wars TV show has been as contentious as The Acolyte, with many claiming it violates the canon, sometimes for the most ludicrous reasons. Surprisingly, these reviewers haven't been attentive. The Acolyte seriously violates one aspect of continuity. The position of the show in the Star Wars timeline is questionable. The Acolyte takes place at the end of the Golden Age of the Jedi and the Republic, also known as the High Republic era, 100 years before the events of Star Wars. Episode 1. The Phantom Menace. Most Star Wars chronologies revolve around the Battle of Yavin, which occurred approximately 132 BBY, before the Battle of Yavin. However, there is evidence that this timing is inaccurate. Two scenes in Acolyte establish their place in the timeline, but they don't work. If you want to understand how the Acolyte fits within the Star Wars storyline, start with Episode 7. This flashback episode, set 16 years before the main events, begins with a group of Jedi visiting the planet Brendok as it recovers from a hyperspace calamity a century ago. This is a fantastic Easter egg from Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi, in which a ship exploded in hyperspace, causing debris to fall on worlds at light speed. The flashback episode seemed to take place a century prior to the Skywalker tale. This leads us to the title crawl of The Acolyte, stating that the main story takes place a century prior to the Empire's rise, not before the discovery of Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine. This is 13 years after the events of the Phantom Menace, and it's a poor match. This implies that the Acolyte takes place during the downfall of the Jedi, not the High Republic era. That is consistent with the ending of The Acolyte, in which the Jedi are overtly embroiled in Republic politics. There is only one problem. Acolyte claims the main story takes place 16 years after the flashbacks. The Acolyte repeatedly asserts that the major plot takes place 16 years later, rather than 13. Characters frequently cite the dates, indicating that there is no room for error. The only feasible solution is to suppose that the Jedi were not entirely accurate when they reported that the hyperspace tragedy occurred a century before their voyage to Brendok. It was most likely 97 years later. To be fair, that is the kind of simplification one might expect in a regular discussion. Still, these dates have a significant bearing on how we should view the Acolyte. The voyage to Brendok marks the end of the High Republic era, revealing the mistakes and defects that would eventually destroy the Jedi. The main plot takes place well into the Jedi's fall. The Order may not be entirely aware of this, but they certainly perceive that they are not what they once were. The Jedi on Brendok would undoubtedly be unable to forget their role in it, implying that a sense of deterioration would pervade and help explain their own personal tragedies.